This week, we're diving back into Season 1, Chapter 7, Blackout, where BC attempts to indulge and celebrate at a staff-only party, only for things to take a dangerous turn. Now, I've worked with my audio artist Zoran to infuse this chapter with more magic, wonder, and incredible artistry. And along the way, we're taking a look back at the Seventh Valkyrie journey as we make our way towards Season 3. Welcome to the Seventh Valkyrie Listen-Along. Let's rock and roll. Hey everyone, and welcome to the Seventh Valkyrie Listen-Along. I'm your host Colin Sharp, creator and current voice of the Seventh Valkyrie. If you're a new listener coming through the series for the first time, welcome. And if you're a grizzled hero of Vetera, it's great to have you back. In today's episode, we're talking about Chapter 7 from Season 1, which is called Blackout. And spoilers, if you haven't listened to the previous chapters, go back and give them a listen. Because we're going to start reviewing things with our first segment called Inside the Episode. And this chapter begins as BC is cozying up at the bar, getting ready for a long night of drinking and imbibing. We are celebrating the end of the fall season at Flair, and all of the pit staff and associated organizations are in attendance, which means crime families mixing in with the hospitality teams. And while Clay, the bartender, gives BC some words of caution, she throws them straight to the wind and starts drinking like a fish. Things descend into a blur of celebration and dancing and debauchery, and it's hours later when BC finally blacks in, thanks to some non-alcoholic ferments that Clay had been slipping her. And in the time she's been out, things have changed, including one major addition. There are some very, very dangerous-looking men who BC doesn't recognize, but they're led by a man she can almost remember. She heads to the bathroom to try to score some uppers, interrupting one set of lovers, before she encounters a very dangerous situation where love is absolutely not involved. Two of the strangers from the dangerous group try to intimidate BC into getting out of the way so they can be alone with a helpless girl. So in response, BC kills them both and then heads over to the bar and throws a dragonfire cocktail at the mercenaries. Things get a bit chaotic, battle erupts, gifts start flying, but then almost immediately things are interrupted by the arrival of May and Frida, who flex their astonishing level of gifted power to disrupt the fight before things can really get out of hand. There's a standoff here between the mercenaries and the pit staff, but it's eventually diffused, which leaves BC to confront a concerned and also somewhat furious May. May informs BC that she just tried to light one of the mercenary kings on fire and demands answers for BC's erratic behavior, eventually zeroing in on BC's bracelet and a reference to something that BC reached for out in the club. Through all this, May concludes that the Machine King is coming for them, and with the truth finally out in the open, May does eventually reassure BC that she's on her side, but neither is exactly oozing confidence. And that's where we finish up, and that's with our segment Inside the Episode. Now I'll take a look outside the episode, some behind-the-scenes stuff, some director's commentary. Big note here. Music was a huge challenge for this chapter. I have made jokes about it before, but the ability of that man for me to say, okay, so like, it's got to be sort of acoustic fantasy style music here, but like, could it also be sort of bluesy or, sorry, didn't realize I had my notifications on. It's like, oh, could it also be kind of bluesy? And then, oh, now let's switch and it should be kind of upbeat but like definitely make it sort of like jovial, but not too like, it's like not too Latin because that'll get into a different variety of music. And then, so I say all this shit, and then he shows up with an incredible track that just kind of feels like it fits the moment, and he finds it on a free sharing server. Anyway, which not an illegal one of the ones that you can pay for a license. Anyway, whatever. other notes that I have on this one are I do sometimes really wish that I could party at Flare or generally in the pit. Obviously, things are very dangerous there, but God, it just seems like such a cool place. Like I would love to just hang out and kick back and have a really good. I would spend all of the money that I had available to me in Edera, and then I would hopefully teleport back because I'd be broke. But I would have gotten some really good booze and dinner. Anyway, some other notes that I had. I love how or one thing I was happy with previous, 5 or 6 years ago, Colin, was the way that even though this is a lawless, kind of outlaw town, there is still a strong community, and there's really strong ties, and there's protections of like people who are perceived as family. And part of that is because the crime families just know it's bad for business if people think they can touch your employees or do anything else to them. But it's great that we get to see this kind of other layer where it's like, oh, even though this is like a rough and tumble place, there's still some rules and some order in place, and people still watch out for each other. Last two notes here. Frida, if you know New Orleans, is absolutely a reference to the Queen of Bounce, Big Frida, legendary New Orleans musician, and I just absolutely had to carry a little bit of inspiration from, I guess a little bit more than a little bit of inspiration, of from the Queen Diva into into the world of Edera. Yeah, and then the last thing is that we start to get some little tastes of BC and May's past. There's scarce details here, but we're starting to unravel a little bit of the mystery. Now, if you guys are listening back through, you know more about what happens throughout this kind of, down the plot line because you've listened to the next season. But this is kind of laying some of the seeds, and knowing what we know now, it's very cool to start to see these little references and these little moments where we're like, oh, okay, we're getting a little taste of what's behind the curtain for May and BC. Anyway, we will find out more later. But if for now we are done with this episode of the Listen Along. Now, if you're itching to get ahead, you're not alone, and you can do that one of two ways. You can listen to the episodes as they were released right now, today, for free. Or if you'd like to experience the full magic of the series, you can join us on Patreon as a hero of Edera and get exclusive access to the Season 1 reimagining weeks before it hits the public. Choice is yours. We're just glad to have you along for the ride as we rock and roll towards Season 3. Ciao for now, guys, and talk to you soon.